Dr. Robert Jeffress is with us. He's the senior pastor of the 11,000-member First Baptist Church of Dallas, Texas, author of the new book, Twilight's Last Gleaming, his website, firstdallas.org. And I first met Dr. Jeffress, and I'm sorry I didn't remember this last night when you were on television with me, sir. You and I were both on the Bill Maher show at the same time.
That's exactly right, a few months ago.
Yes, and I remember a very nice conversation in the little reception, the cocktail reception they have after the show,
yes.
Meeting your wife and the other people along with you. You are somewhat notorious, I suppose, probably not a word you'd use to describe, but certainly Mitt Romney would, for identifying Mitt Romney as a cult follower because he's a Mormon. And when you look at the stats, the evangelical vote in Iowa, Rick Santorum picked up 53% of that vote. Ron Paul got 14%. Romney only got 8% of the evangelical vote. I'm curious your thought as a well-known Baptist minister who has publicly endorsed Rick Perry, and Rick Perry has accepted that endorsement, and you have and has not repudiated you, even though Mitt Romney has asked him to. What your thoughts are on Mitt Romney going forward, and would you vote for a cult leader, a man who is, in your mind, a cult leader?
And of course, there's a context to all of that. I was asked after I introduced Perry, what I thought about Mormonism, and I said, look, Mormons are good, moral people, but they're not Christians. Mormonism is not a part of historic Christianity. It is a cult, and I went on to explain it's a theological cult. But, I think the problem that evangelicals have with Mitt Romney is not limited to the Mormon problem. In fact, I'm not even sure the majority of evangelicals have a problem with the Mormon issue, but I think enough have a problem with it that it could be a real problem if Mitt Romney is the nominee. Look, I think you can win the Republican nomination without evangelical support. I don't think you can win the White House. And John McCain found that out. 30 million evangelicals sat at home in 2008. Barack Obama won by 10 million votes. So I do think...
And you could argue that Jimmy Carter, in part, won because of the evangelical vote, because this was back before the evangelical vote had been so highly partisanized, shall we say, and Carter was arguably the first American president to come out and declare himself a born again Christian.
That's right.
But this idea that Mormonism is a cult. You say that Mormonism is a cult because they claim to be a recently revealed religion, that Joseph Smith found the tablets of gold in the early 1800s and transcribed them, and that became the Book of Mormon, and this is a revelation from God, and that the Christian world only acknowledges the revelation from God of the Bible. Do I have that right?
Yeah, that's one of the three reasons we call it a theological cult. So, it has a human leader versus a divine leader, Joseph Smith versus Jesus Christ. Secondly, like you said, a different book of Revelation. And then thirdly, it has a set of doctrines that are antithetical to historic Orthodox Christianity.
Okay, well, then why, by those definitions, first of all, I think you'd have to acknowledge that many Catholics would say that you're not a Christian because you're a Baptist. Okay, so there's all these debates within Christianity, and the Book of Mormon explicitly endorses Jesus. I mean, it's not an anti-Jesus book, but why isn't Christianity itself a cult? Here, Christianity, you've got a book that was written by people, right? And that was selected over a 300 or 400 year period by a whole bunch of different councils of Nicaea and everything else, up until the Second Council of Constantinople in what was it, 366 was it, or what? I don't remember my Christian history all that well, but it was some hundreds of years after Jesus was dead, and the original church that Jesus founded with his 12 disciples, the Jerusalem church, basically died out. There are some Orthodox religions, the Egyptian Orthodox claim that they're from that lineage.
Hold it. It didn't die out. That church...
It was replaced by the Pauline Church.
Within 200 years, toppled the entire Roman Empire. So
no, that was
it died out.
That was the Pauline Church. That was the church that was created by Paul, who was not one of Jesus' disciples.
Oh, yes, he was. Absolutely,
He never met
was.
Jesus in the flesh.
He met him on the road to Damascus.
Jesus had been crucified by that point.
And he had been resurrected and ascended into heaven and appeared to Paul.
Well, that's all assuming
Tom,
that.
Here's what it comes
You know,
down to.
I don't so much want to argue Christianity with you because here I am. I call myself a Christian.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that if your criteria of a cult is that they've got a human leader, or spokesperson, shall we say? The letters of Paul, I think, are not that different than or for that matter, the revelation of Paul certainly is not that different from, and that was long after Jesus was crucified.
Well, but Orthodox Christians would say that is a part of the Bible, and that was a revelation from God. So, if secularists want to call us a cult, I guess you could say that. So,
okay. All right. Then
that's fine.
That's interesting that you would say that, because I think.
I mean, our friend Bill Maher would say all religion is based on crazy ideas, and you're all cultists.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure that I wouldn't say that, and that I'm not all that worried about being a member of a cult.
But there is a huge difference between Mormonism and historic Christianity, which Mormons acknowledge. They said the whole church was apostate since the time of the apostles until Joseph Smith discovered the tablets. So they've not been a part of historic Christianity by their own admission.
So have you? So Mitt Romney is a Mormon. He's
and your original question, Tom, was would I vote for him?
Right. That's where I was going again.
Yeah, and I said on Fox the other day, I said, look, in November, those of us who are evangelical Christians may have to hold our nose when we vote and choose between the lesser of two evils. But it's not November yet, and we still have plenty of shopping days left. And in my book, Twilight's Last Gleaming, I say to Christians, we ought to go ahead and look for the most conservative, competent, consistently conservative Christian with character, and then if we have two choices come November, then we'd make the choice of the lesser of two evils.
Shouldn't there's a large movement within the Christian church, and I think Chris Hedges is probably one of the best representatives of this, who was went through seminary and openly calls himself a Christian, very thoughtful guy, and I don't know if you're familiar with his writings, but there is a substantial movement within the various Christian denominations to say, no, Matthew 25 is our lodestar, or our star, lone star, whatever the word is, and the idea that we should be caring for the hungry, or feeding the hungry, and caring for the poor, and housing the homeless. That's the really important stuff. That was Jesus' message, not pick on the gays or make sure everybody has a gun. Shouldn't Christians be voting based on policy rather than on religion? On policies that are consistent with Matthew 25, for example?
Well, I think it ought to be, in fact, in my book, which you were kind enough to mention, Twilight's Last Gleaming, I talk about 4 questions we ought to ask before we vote about any candidate. And one of those questions is, does the candidate's policies align with the Bible? And look, you can take issues like cap and trade, climate control, taxation, universal health care, and quite frankly, I could argue either side of any of those issues and use the Bible to argue both sides. Sure. The Bible isn't real clear.
But you can't use the Bible to argue. But you can't argue both sides of should we feed the hungry.
That's what I'm getting to.
Okay.
I'm getting to, and I agree with you. Yes, the Bible talks about caring for the poor. Yes, it talks about the sanctity of marriage and the importance of protecting life, both outside of the womb and inside the womb.
Although back then marriage meant 700 wives.
Important. All 3 of them are important.
Okay. All right. Dr. Robert Jeffress, thank you very much for being on the program. Good talking with you.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
Senior pastor of the 11,000-member First Baptist Church of Dallas, firstdallas.org.